The forbidden name and the hidden mystery. Imagine a name so powerful that it was erased from the scriptures, distorted over the centuries, and transformed into the greatest symbol of evil, a name that carries a forbidden truth, buried beneath layers of translation, interpretations, and religious dogmas. That name is Lucifer. But who really is this figure? Does the Bible truly describe him as the Lord of Darkness? Or was this idea a later creation, shaped to conceal something much greater? Most people believe that Lucifer is a biblical character, directly associated with Satan, but what few know is that the word Lucifer appears only once in the entire Bible, and does not refer to a fallen angel. This revelation alone shatters centuries of popular belief. The origin of this confusion traces back to the Latin Vulgate translation, made by Saint Jerome in the 4th century, where the term Lucifer was used to translate the Hebrew Hallel, meaning morning star or light bringer. The verse in question is found in Isaiah 14:12. How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. If we read the context of this chapter, we see that Isaiah is speaking directly about the king of Babylon, not a celestial being. So how did this name come to be associated with God's greatest enemy? The answer to this question involves a series of historical and theological changes that shape the figure of Lucifer as we know him today. And what if I told you that Lucifer's true identity was altered to create a narrative of control? If this story has already shocked you, imagine what's to come, because the forbidden truth behind Lucifer goes far beyond. But before we continue, leave your comment on this revelation. Did you already know this, or were you surprised? The theological deception. Are Lucifer and Satan the same? If Lucifer was not originally Satan, then when and why did this fusion happen? To understand this, we need to go back to early Christianity and the interpretations of the fall of the angels. During the first centuries of the church, there was a need to create a clear enemy to reinforce the idea of dualism between good and evil. Satan already existed in the scriptures as an adversary, but he was not a fallen angel in the Old Testament. He was seen as an accuser, a being who tested the faith of the righteous, as in the book of Job. But confusion began to form when theologians started connecting different biblical passages to create a unified narrative. In addition to Isaiah 14, another frequently cited passage is Ezekiel 28, where there is a description of an anointed cherub who was expelled from Eden because of his arrogance. The text says, "You were in Eden, the garden of God. You covered yourself with all kinds of precious stones. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, until iniquity was found in you." However, this passage originally refers to the king of Tyre, a historical figure. But Christian tradition began to interpret that this passage spoke about a powerful angel who fell from God's grace. Over the centuries, this interpretation solidified and began to be associated with the idea of Lucifer as the greatest traitor of heaven. But there is a major issue here. At no point does the Bible explicitly connect Lucifer to Satan. This fusion was a theological construction that became popular, especially in the Middle Ages, when Christian writers like Thomas Aquinas began to organize the celestial and demonic hierarchy in more detail. So what does this mean? It means that the figure of Lucifer as the fallen demon may be one of the greatest deceptions in human history. But if this is true, then who is Satan really? Let's dive even deeper into this enigma and uncover the most hidden secrets about the true identity of this being. If you want to learn more about this controversy, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, because what comes next might completely change your view of the Bible, what the Bible really says about Satan. If we analyze the Bible in its raw form, without the influences of later interpretations, we will realize that the figure of Satan is very different from what we have been taught. In the Old Testament, Satan is not described as a rebel who was cast out of heaven. In fact, he appears as a servant of God, a being who fulfills a specific role within the biblical narrative. In the book of Job, Satan does not act on his own, but rather with God's permission to test Job's faith. In ancient Judaism, he was seen more as a prosecutor of divine justice than as an absolute enemy. This view began to change over time, mainly due to the influences of other cultures, such as Persian Zoroastrianism, which presented a strong division between good and evil. In the Gospels of the New Testament, Satan takes on a new role, becoming the tempter who seeks to lead Jesus astray from his path. But even then, there is no mention of Lucifer as being the same character. If all of this has already made you question what we really know about the Bible, then get ready for what's coming next, because we are going to explore what really happened in the fall of the angels, and what Lucifer's true role is in the history of Christianity and beyond. Comment below what you think about this revelation, and whether it changes anything in your view of what we've been taught, what really happened. The story most people know about the fall of Lucifer is closer to a medieval tale than a biblical account. The image of a great angel full of pride, leading a rebellion in heaven and being cast out by God in a cosmic war is striking. But where is this in the Bible? The truth is that this narrative does not clearly exist in the Holy Scriptures. What we have are fragments, pieces of text that have been connected by different theologians over the centuries to construct this story. Many interpretations of the fall of the angels come from a book that isn't even in the Catholic or Protestant Bible, the Book of Enoch. This ancient apocryphal text, widely read among Jews during the Second Temple period, tells of a group of angels called the Watchers or Grigori, who fell in love with human women, descended to earth, and fathered giant offspring called Nephilim. The Book of Enoch says these angels were punished by God and imprisoned in the abyss until the day of judgment. This narrative greatly influenced the Christian idea of the fall of the angels, but curiously, Lucifer is not mentioned in this account. In the New Testament, the Book of Revelation mentions a war in heaven, where Michael and his angels fight against the dragon and his followers. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. Revelation 12:7-8. This passage is often interpreted as the rebellion of Lucifer, but the text itself clarifies that the dragon is Satan. In other words, the idea that this event took place before the creation of the world and that Satan was once an angel named Lucifer is a later theological construct. So if this story was shaped over time, what was the true reason for transforming Lucifer into God's supreme enemy? The church's interest in creating an adversary. To understand the construction of Lucifer's image as the great villain of humanity, we need to look at the history of the church. During the early centuries of Christianity, the world was filled with pagan beliefs. Many ancient religions had gods that represented light, knowledge, and rebellion against the supreme gods. One of the greatest examples of this is Prometheus, the Greek titan who stole fire from the gods to give to mankind, and was cruelly punished by Zeus. Other examples include Enki in Sumerian mythology, who brought wisdom to humanity, and even the serpent in the Garden of Eden, who offered the fruit of knowledge to Eve. With the rise of the Catholic Church, it became necessary to clearly define who God's allies were and who his enemies were. Therefore, any figure that represented rebellion, knowledge, and enlightenment began to be seen as a threat. The very name Lucifer means light bringer, and this was interpreted as a symbol of temptation and the arrogance of wanting to challenge God. Over time, the church consolidated the idea that any attempt to seek knowledge beyond what was permitted could lead to ruin. And the best way to symbolize this was with the figure of a fallen angel who tried to equal the Creator and was condemned eternally. But what if I told you that this view was used as a tool of control? Lucifer and the occult. What was hidden? Over the centuries, Lucifer came to be adopted by some esoteric and philosophical movements as a symbol of liberation and knowledge. This does not mean that he is viewed as a real being or an entity to be worshipped, but rather as an archetype of enlightenment, someone who questions imposed dogmas. In Freemasonry, for example, there are symbolic interpretations of Lucifer as the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. In modern Satanism, especially in the teachings of Anton LaVey, Lucifer represents independence and free will, not a demonic being. This raises a question. If the Bible does not make it clear that Lucifer and Satan are the same entity, why did the church have such an interest in demonizing this figure? What few know is that even some Christian sects have considered Lucifer as a being of light before his fall, and the Catholic Church suppressed these teachings. Knowledge has always been a powerful weapon, and throughout history, those who sought to challenge the imposed rules were labeled as heretics. But then, if Lucifer is not this absolute evil being, who or what is the true evil? The true meaning of evil in the Bible, the idea of an all-powerful, omnipotent enemy of God, is not as biblical as it may seem. In the Old Testament, God is the one who judges and punishes, without the need for an opposing force to command the darkness. Satan, when he appears, has no autonomy to act without divine permission. Over time, the influence of dualistic religions, like Zoroastrianism, led Christianity to adopt a more defined concept of an enemy of good. Thus, Satan, who was once merely an accuser, became a ruler of hell. But hell itself, as a place of eternal torment, is also a theological construct. In ancient Judaism, the concept of hell was much closer to Sheol, a dark resting place for the dead without torture. In other words, both the figure of Lucifer and hell itself were shaped over the centuries to create a control system based on fear. So what do we really know about Lucifer? The Bible suggests he might have been a Babylonian king. Christian theology turned him into a fallen angel. Occultism adopted him as a symbol of enlightenment, but the only absolute truth we can assert is that his story has been manipulated to serve different purposes throughout history. Now I want to know, has this narrative changed your view of Lucifer? Do you think we've been misled about his true identity? Comment below and share this video with those who need to know the forbidden truth. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything.